Hello everyone, finally making my Mara video for boosting, and for anyone who's just checking this out randomly, the goal of this video is to do the 340 mob princess and purple side and to do it without any Zanza potion. So the reason I do that is because I play this on kind of a quieter realm. We don't have summons to ZG Island, we don't have like an economy for bijous. So I do this pretty minimally with very few pots, mostly just for emergencies. I do use a regular nature protection potion for the kill phase, just for kind of comfort and ensuring the kill. But you really don't need to use them. I've done this pull for months and months without any sort of nature protection pot. I run maybe 65 nature resistance, which is 75 with mage armor up. That's enough for a level 60 doing this. So we're gonna make a beeline straight for princess in this beginning of this run, and then we're gonna start the pull kind of from the falls beneath her boss area. You can do this with Zanza, it'll make it a whole lot easier and faster. This pull will end up being like maybe 16 to 17 minutes long, start to finish. And then, it's usually like a couple minutes looting and dealing with people kind of running out, and then maybe another 5 or 6 minutes to set up for the next run. So you'd expect to be like 25-minute intervals, between each start. We're just kind of doing these constantly. Once we get up here to like the last bridge to Princess, we're gonna conjure all our gems. We're gonna rebuff ice armor, AI. We'll do one final dampen magic and get started. There's a lot of information to convey, so I'm going to do my best to kind of like talk about underlying mechanics and strategies as it goes on, while also kind of talking about the different parts of the pull, because it is long and there is a lot to kind of go over. We'll just start by dropping down here, kind of blink to safely fall, and then we're going to use rank 1 blizzards to finally pull these hydras in the water. And we'll pull a couple of these that we could reach, and then those will chain pull a couple others. Yeah, like I said, I'm just going to try to do these without, using too much mana potions. So we're going to just use gems on cooldown throughout the pulling phase. Once you get to purple side, then you have those poison sprites casting on you, and using the mana absorption talent means you'll never go at that point. So we just need to maintain our mana for that first like 8 minutes of the pull as we're gathering up all the mobs in the distance. So after we pull those two hydras, we're gonna run back to the very, very bottom of the falls, and we're going to pull this third hydra and any of the other mobs that we can. So like these rock patrols, I usually like to rank 1 blizzard those. Most of the pulling I do are things like counterspell, rank 1 cone of cold, rank 1 fire blast. Just gonna kind of gather up those worms and freeze them. Then I like to use a lot of rank 1 blizzards throughout the pull. And the reason why we do that, why we're kind of, you'll see me constantly like doing these stacking maneuvers, is like I like to call them, is because over time, like as the mobs path through the dungeon, they go around these corners and they change their pathing direction, there's like a random amount of time that they get delayed. So what that means is your pack is constantly fanning out. No matter how much you kind of stack them, it's always kind of working against you to unstack them. And you don't need to be too meticulous about this, but you want to, for one thing, always use rank 1 spells because you don't want mobs to go too low of health before their time, before the end. And I can go over that a little bit more later. But you also want to just make sure they never get so far back or they get so fanned out that they fall off, basically, and reset. They lose their leash to the player. That's less XP for the people you're boosting. We're just kind of making our way out of the princess area, little by little, aggroing each and every mob pack as best as we can, and kind of stacking them up with the rest of the mobs running behind you. You know, so we slowly gather this really big parade of monsters over time. So this will be, this kind of important. We do an ice barrier there as we pass that pack, and then we want to blink up this hill. Then we want to save our next blink for this kind of maneuver up here. So what we're going to do is, after aggroing those Diametrons, this pack kind of that we ran by earlier, I like to do a rank 1 Frostbolt. Then we're going to blink to the trench and jump down. This is a good point to bandage, so I always do like a heavy mage weave bandage just to kind of recover the HP I lost from jumping. And then as soon as you see mobs come around that corner, cast your rank 1 Blizzard. And then we're going to just kind of start stacking them again as they come into this trench. Gonna Nova some of these. I like to Kono Cold this last pack. I kind of wait for that third guy who missed the Kono Cold to come up and hit me, because they get the ice armor debuff. Alright, so I got those guys ran through. I missed them with a bad blizzard. So it kind of got lucky that I didn't get a silence. So those Diametrons will cast an AoE silence that's really sucks. It's like 8 seconds, 10 seconds. You can lip out of, but or ice block out of. You want to kind of keep away from them. You want them kind of away from the front of the herd, so to speak. I don't go too crazy in that room, aggroing all the Hydras. You can do a loop around the entire room. They will social each other and social with the Diametrons. You want to kind of, though, get away as quickly as possible, get your blink on cooldown, save the next blink when you're up here after you aggro these 2 worm packs. Save it just for the last second, because sometimes the Hydras are a little bit closer than they are now. I have like a really good distance on them in this one. It's not always this far. You want to kind of save your blink right till you see them kind of coming up at you. Get a good enough distance away. There's one more worm pack that I skip here to the left. That's like further back, kind of tucked away. You can use a grenade if you have engineering to aggro those. You can use a nifty stopwatch. I don't bother. It's just 1 pack of worms. And, you know, don't get yourself killed trying to get just another 600 or 800 experience. So I like to do a stack on one of these corners as I come around this area here. Just kind of make sure that the mobs are all still kind of gathered together, because they kind of spread out a bit as you're running through that curved room. Then as you go around here, you can blink. I kind of don't blink just because I'm being a little bit risky, and I'm just kind of making... See, they almost silenced me there, but I resisted it. You can run up here, and then they won't follow you. They'll go the long way around, so you can do a really nice little stack here, the rank 1 Blizzard. You could do a couple more if you wanted to. Just keep stacking as they're running up here. So what happens in this room, we're going to run along the edge here, and then it's going to get too steep, and we're going to slide off. So what happens in this room, I'm going to pause it. The mobs will chase you, but then they're gonna run all the way back and then run across the water over here. That's because this area of the water is too deep for them. The Hydras have a larger collision box, so they can run through the deeper water. So I'm gonna blizzard the Hydras to kind of let the rest of the mob pack catch up. That's what happens in this room. So this will stack up whatever's left of the tail of the mobs pretty well, and we'll get the Hydras kind of like back below the front of the pack. Best we can anyway. So that now we're just gonna run up the Poison Falls area all the way to purple, just kind of aggroing each mob. Not those dryads. Those dryads are run killers, so you want to not aggro them. Sure. Some mobs will let chain pull. Some mobs will, cast spells directly on just to kind of get them chasing us at a good moment. Counterspell that last one. Nova that one. Cone of Cold. So we're still good on mana. We're just now getting into purple, and we shouldn't have any issues. Just kind of like getting the rest of these mobs aggroed and keeping our shield up if we need it. Gonna counterspell this pack over here and then blink. I'll do a rank 1 Fire Blast, and those slimes are there. Those slimes are going to reset anyway, but you still want to aggro them if possible because they will keep mobs in combat just by socializing. So it still kind of helps a little. Mobs towards the back of the pack. So this room, once you jump down here, you have a few seconds. You can either bandage or you can, I like to evocate here. Don't really need an evocate or, anywhere near a full one. But it's kind of nice to have. I'll pop a health pot just for safety going into this. So now's a good time to refresh your Dampen Magic. Definitely refresh your Ice Barrier going into this area. These 3 mobs, I'm just going to do a rank 1 Frostbolt, Counterspell, rank 1 Fire Blast, then run out. And around this time is when the pack is going to be catching up. So I'm going to go running around the edge. This is like one of the best stacking maneuvers. You run around the edge of this room and then blink to the exit. So what happens is all the mobs kind of like spread out and then they collapse into kind of like a single point, which is really great. We're going to do that a second time. Because we do a second... The reason why I'm running past these mobs is we do a second lap around purple and finish aggroing everything, pulling all the rest of the packs after we've kind of turned the mobs around. So there's actually a couple of places you could turn the mob pack around and just indefinitely run them back and forth in purple. It's amazing. It's like it's built for this. So if things go wrong with the pull, just remember you can always kind of take a lap. But you'll see another lap here in a second. See how I turn them off. Wait for that guy, blink through him just so he's not an issue. Try to bandage a few ticks before stacking them on this ramp. So I like to kind of manually pull this other pack of mobs down below. It's because sometimes they don't always pull automatically. And I'm gonna finish aggroing everything here. I'm gonna refresh Ice Spear as I run across this bridge. Get it cooling down because I'm gonna pop it again when I jump down here in a second. Link over here. This stacking maneuver is great. Let's get to the edge of the edge there and then drop your rank 1 Blizzard on the corner. And they're gonna all stack up, like the entire thing. So right before they get to me, I'm gonna try to be careful. Just jump down, refresh Ice Barrier. And you are so far ahead of them now, you can take your time. Don't blink until we're done aggroing this kind of lower area. We're ready to kind of get out of there. So I'm going to now aggro the rest of purple. I go down to the area we ran through before and just start casting spells on all these. You might find a better way to do it. I like to just use like rank 1 Frostbolts. Save my counterspell in case I need it. I don't really use it here. for any of these, but it's like a nice extra, like omnidirectional way to pull a mob if you mess up, with some other spell. So, all that over these guys, and then I like to run all the way to the edge here and blink. It does like a little like collapse stacking the mob pack as they're running after you. All of this room should be already pulled, so we're just going to kind of blink through it. Right as I get to this totem here on the corner, though, that's when I refresh my ice barrier. It's kind of timed perfectly for the next couple stacking maneuvers. It'll be there for us as we start getting sprites casting on us again. So this room, we're just going to aggro these last two packs of satyrs and any other of these warpwood stomper guys that are still around. Stack them as they come around these corners. Aggro that pack. Link up the ramp. Over the stomper. And then we could do another stack on this ramp that's really good as they run around. We should get like all the mobs under a single blizzard, basically. So I like to use a rank 1 Fire Blast and Counterspell to pull those two like stealth guys in front of Vile Tongue. Then pull any other like stompers that are around. There's always one kind of trailing behind the pack over here, so I'm just going to cast a Frostbolt and get him chill debuffed. You could do the same thing with this other stomper over here. The last mob to pull before the kill phase, so what I'm going to do now is switch to Mage Armor, pop my Nature Protection pot, and should be ready to go. So we'll just do one last kind of loop around this room to stack them. You'll see how well stacked they can get. We kind of run to this wall and just follow the outer edge. And they're going to be kind of stretching along behind us. So as soon as we see those hydras pop in on the left there, we blink. Don't wait another second. And then they're going to basically collapse into a nice tight little pack. So check this out. Basically, they're within like a, like 30-yard radius with like kind of a trail of sprites behind them. So as this is kind of like the perfect moment when you see those two torches, pop your ice barrier. About like 15-20 seconds later, I'll pop a mana shield too. It's like a nice little extra thing to have for the kill phase, as I forget to do it. But now's a good time to do it. And we're going to just start using full rank spells at this point. We're going to just kill the mobs. So the first one, this is kind of like the important thing when starting this. So I'm going to pause it. We put our first blizzard here. We're going to wait until all the mobs get chilled, or at least like 95% of them visually that we can see. And then we're going to... What's going to happen is all the green poison imps are going to gather up down here at the bottom of the ramp and start casting on. So then we're going to scoot to the left here, strafe to this kind of skeleton laying on the ground. And then right where I have it here, we're going to cast a second blizzard. And so all the mobs will be slowed. They'll run into our second blizzard. The sprites will break line of sight, and then they're going to herd up the ramp behind them and go into our blizzard as well. So then by the end of our second blizzard, all the mobs will be up here, and all the poison sprites will be like in a nice little fanned out line along this ramp. Check this out. So strafe over here. You see the sprites down below running up the ramp. So when everything runs into your second blizzard here, you don't want to wait too long. You want to kind of make a beeline there and then start. Where you jump is important. So I jump down to the totem on the like corner, the far corner of this right side prong looking out over it. And the reason why you do that is because the hydras have like a really wide melee radius. So if you jumped over onto this totem, if you're like closer to the back edge here, they'll continue pathing a ways and smack you. So get good at like landing on the totem towards this corner, this far corner is as much as possible, and that'll ensure you don't have problems with the Hydras smacking you. So I'll do like one blizzard somewhere here on the middle of the ramp, then one at the bottom once they're all slowed, so that they, take a lot of damage. Then I'm going to jump back up, and now for this second, kind of cycle from up here, I'm going to focus down now the imps. My goal is to kill all of the imps except for like one, because that mana absorption talent is going to mean that one imp is your infinite mana battery throughout the rest of the kill. So if you get two or three still alive, no big deal. Just kill most of them, and it should only take like a single blizzard. All the mob pack will run into that blizzard that you're using to kill the sprites. So once they all get slowed, jump back down and just continue. Now you're good to just continue the cycle. We're just gonna, you could do like a single blizzard back and forth if you really wanted to, as you jump onto that totem. And if you make sure that like the target, the center of the blizzard is on that first mob, you shouldn't have any issue. Keeping them all snared. As you can see, I get a whole lot of mana every time that sprite casts a poison bolt on me. The larger rock elementals will break into tiny rock elementals. You gotta kind of watch out for those. So once you start seeing them break off, maybe you put your blizzard a little bit further ahead. Anyway, that was a pretty clean kill. So I wanted to just go over a couple little things here. When you're first learning the Maripole, the thing that I would suggest that you do is immediately just come in here and practice this totem. It really sucks to like kind of put a lot of work into a pull and go through that whole like 15-minute process of stacking everything and then falling off the totem and dying. So it's kind of like the first thing you should get good at when doing this, just to like maximize your efficiency in learning the pull, but also like not burning yourself out with like frustration. So this this prong here, the near one, you could just walk onto, and it's really easy to jump up, back up. And if you don't have Hydras in the pack, this is totally viable. You could use this. But once you start pulling Hydras, they have such a large like hit radius, melee range, that it's not safe. They'll just run up and smack you. So you need to use this totem prong. And you need to kind of like be on this corner where I'm at here, as close to this edge as possible, because even like kind of down here, they can still reach you from up here edge if they get close enough. And sometimes the Hydras will resist, and you just got to be really careful, and you got to land here perfectly. So you want to just practice this jump over and over and over again, from the top up here, and just kind of scooting to where you need to be. So the visual cue that I use for jumping up here, and every race is a little bit different, is I jump at this kind of bone leaning up against the wall. If you kind of look and say, well, like right here is kind of the middle of that bone, that's where I look at the top of my character's head, and then I jump like right as I run up to the edge of that totem there. So just come in here and do this like hundreds of times, so you're really, really good at it, and you'll be surprised, especially if you do this far tone, which I'm about to show you here in a minute. Your like consistency of getting it like 95% of the time without falling it'll take a while. Maybe hundreds of jumps, just coming up here. And the other thing I suggest you do is, maybe practice pulling some mobs. Just get yourself some stress and learn the totem jumps while you have mobs chasing you. Maybe just do rank 1 blizzards and kind of kite them around and learn the flow of like casting blizzard and getting them up and down this ramp, you know. And I would say just spend like a good couple of hours doing stuff like this until you're like so comfortable with it that you, in the heat of the moment, you have 350 mobs, chase you down. It's not going to stress you out and like make you panic because it's a lot, It's can be a little overstimulating. So yeah, I'm kind of like scooting before I cast my next blizzard. That's kind of what you have to do because if you interrupt your blizzard with another blizzard, it'll miss ticks, and it's super frustrating when that happens. So I think another thing I'm going to show, lastly, is how to jump to the bar totem. So there'll be times where you're, kiting the mobs back and forth up here, where the group might get split, and that'll happen a lot in the early times, especially when you're kind of learning this, and you'll be like, what the hell am I going to do? I can't, like, I'm no longer saved on this, you know, situation. So you can fall back, basically, just run back around the entire room. You can kind of kite mobs around corners to group them up again. And you can fall back basically to this totem. And this totem's really good. You could attack the mobs as they come around this ramp, and then you could jump back up here and fight the mobs. I just find it much harder to do this jump, especially with male undead. Maybe other races it's easier. I think troll male has it the worst. They have like kind of like the widest bodies. The visual cue that I use for jumping back up is you'll see these like textures with these rocks. There's like a crack there. So I jump to the left side of this crack. I kind of look at it on top of my character's head. And I'll like start, on this corner of the totem and run to the other corner. It's like my path to run up, and then right at the last second, jump at that, side of that crack, like I said. So, and that's it's really precise. Like I said, you want to come up here and practice this hundreds of times. Like I've done this so much for months and months and months, and I still miss this all the time. And I have to really look carefully and like line myself up. Otherwise, yep, there I go. I didn't make it. Yeah, it's not as easy as it looks. But you could do it. Just takes practice. Just get yourself armed with all these really great like basic skills, like beginner skills going into there, and then the rest of the process will be so much easier. One other quick thing that I forgot to mention that I wanted to kind of go over. So that there's two reasons why you're stacking the mobs with rank 1 spells only. First one, kind of go over. You don't want the mobs to have like lower health so that they fan out, because like the lower health the mobs have, the slower they go, so it changes all their speeds. So like the things like the boars will die really quickly. You throw a single full rank blizzard on them and they'll they'll fan out so bad, it'll be a problem for the rest of the pull. But the second reason is there's an XP decay mechanic. And what that means is over time, the damage you do to a mob, the XP for that, portion of the damage. So let's say you do 10% of the mob's damage through the pulling phase. That means once you get to the kill phase, 10% of the XP will have decayed and the boosties will miss out on that. And that happens about 45 seconds after the last time you damage a mob. So, and you're kiting these mobs over huge distances for like 10, 12 minutes. So you want to do as little damage as possible to it to maximize your XP at the end of the run. So that also means that if you kind of screw up in the middle of the pull and you have to take a loop around purple side, you're going to decay the XP for any time you don't damage them. So you want to be constantly like rank 1 blizzarding throughout that loop to ensure that the XP stays alive, so to speak. Anyway, just be mindful of the XP decay mechanic as you're doing this, because you'll see it pop up as an issue for those runs that get hairy. The one last thing I want to mention, I play on Deviant Delight in Classic Era. We have a really cool Horde side community. There's also an Alliance side that's building up. They have a handful of raiders that are starting to prog through MC. We're currently clearing Blackwing Lair every week and progging through AQ40. And we would love to have more raiders. We'd love to have more people playing on the faction on the server. And we're just kind of like roughing it out and having a good time with 50 or 60 people every week. So come check it out if you're looking for kind of a quieter, more chill community to play WoW. Thanks.